So here's a sobering story about security at the football. Elmo could get work in WA at the moment. Businesses are screaming for staff. Leaving Perth with the laziest, dumbest, least qualified workers in the state.
There's something not right about these Optus breaches.
We're all having a good chuckle at the moment about the fake tradies who got into the grand final and how that streaker managed to con his way past security. So here's a sobering story about security at the football. A few months after 9/11, the WA Police did a full new terrorism risk assessment of WA. They identified the airport, the Perth train station and Subiaco Oval as the most likely targets. The cops decided to run some exercises to work out how quickly they could respond to a bomb threat at Subi. During the middle of the week, they planted a fake bomb in the stands and sent in the tactical response group to find it. Guess how long they searched for?
A couple of hours?
3 days. And they didn't even find the bomb, which wasn't particularly well hidden. It was just under a seat.
By the way, that last part's actually true.
3 days in an empty stadium, broad daylight, no distractions, and they couldn't find the bomb. Which is why you'll have to excuse me for not applauding the Aussie larrikinism that allowed some people to sidestep security and get into Optus to watch the grand final. Actually, they didn't even need to sidestep, they just walked right past security.
Sorry if we use the lift?
I think we're in.
So Optus Stadium boss Mike McKenna, what are you going to do now? Because everyone in Australia knows it's pretty easy to get into your stadium, which by any measure would still be in the top 3 terrorism targets in Western Australia. We had the biggest sporting event in the state's history, 61,118 people all crammed into the one place. A few days prior, the AFL said no to a grand final parade because of, amongst other things, the threat of a single vehicle act of terrorism. There was an international television audience, and it was 2 weeks after the 20-year anniversary of this. With all that going on, Optus Stadium had no idea who was coming and going. Their security was outwitted by these guys.
Doing the old-fashioned hop over the fence and hope no one's watching.
Not exactly Jason Bourne operatives. They were only one step removed from a Groucho Marx disguise.
McFly, your shoes are tied. Don't be so gullible, McFly.
They documented the whole thing, but didn't get charged because they didn't officially trespass, because even though they didn't have tickets, they were invited in. The streaker Abra Bol was stopped once by a guard because he didn't have a ticket. Second time, just let through. Walks right on through a security entrance, plonks himself down in a primo seat on the pocket, gets told to leave there because that's not where he's meant to be sitting, walks around the ground, gets his kit off and jumps the fence. The maximum fine for pitch invasion is $12,000. That warning is flashed up on the big screen at Optus every 5 minutes. Everyone knows it. Abra was fined $1,200. 10%. What the f*** do you have to do to get the maximum? Take a dump in the centre square? Abra said, "It's just something I thought was funny."
Okay, you seem very pissed off about this.
The thing that pisses me off more than the judge giving him such a piss-weak penalty is the fact he raised $1,400 from his GoFundMe page, so he's profited from the whole thing.
Who are the suckers?
When Bond sent him some new undies. He walks out with $200 cash in his pocket and some fresh dacks. The best bit, he said he needed to set up the GoFundMe page because, and I quote, "I'm not working at all." He's on Centrelink benefits.
And?
How the f*** does this guy not have a job? Elmo could get work in WA at the moment. Businesses are screaming for staff.
I work hard for the money, so hard for the money. Always something, money. Come on, give me lots of honey.
Now there's an employee, Smithers.
He's clearly physically able, and he's mentally acute enough to convince a security guard to let him in without a ticket, convince a judge to give him a sentence that's f*** all, and convince a bunch of strangers to donate him $1,400. You're telling me he can't wash some dishes at a restaurant? He could have taken one of these 600 jobs that needed filling at Optus Stadium on the day of the grand final.
True. Could get a job on the mines. They might need him.
No jab, no job. Going to test a few of those high-earning anti-vaxxers, isn't it? It's one thing to say you're against the jab when there's no downside, very different when your $200,000 a year job's on the line. We're going to see who really believes vaccine turn you into Magneto from X-Men. It's a thing.
People who've had these shots and now they're magnetized. They can put a key on their forehead, it sticks. They can put spoons and forks all over them and they can stick.
Magnetic, but not really.
Yeah, so if somebody can explain this, that would be great.
There are a lot of big numbers being thrown around at the moment which we need to clear up. There are 250,000 people employed directly or indirectly by the WA resources industry. Of those, between 140,000 and 150,000 actually work on site or are deemed mission critical because they do things like work in remote operation centres in Perth. So around 150,000 people will have to prove they have been double vaxxed. One mine site recruiter reckons 20,000 people might leave the industry because they'll refuse to get the jab. That's about 13% of the workforce.
That seems a bit high.
Maybe. We know that vaccine hesitancy starts affecting vax rates when you're down to the last 15% of the population. But with education, you can get it down to 5%. Even if we just have 5% quit, we're going to be short 7,500 workers by January 1. 7,500. That's a lot of jobs to fill in the Pilbara when you can't convince this guy to be a dish pig for a few hours at his local cafe. As usual, the resources companies will throw money at the problem. At $117 a tonne for iron ore, you don't mind paying a rock kicker an extra 10 grand a year or giving them a sign-on bonus. So Rio, BHP, Woodside and Chevron and all the rest of them will outbid everyone else to fill the positions left vacant by people who think this or this. The few good tradies left down here are all going to take off up north to earn mega bucks, leaving Perth with the laziest, dumbest, least qualified workers in the state, who we will have to pay even more to do an even crappier job on the house reno we didn't really need but did anyway because we wanted the building bonus. You're going to be better off putting in the new IKEA kitchen yourself. And if it's under 20 grand, you don't even need a builder's ticket. Not that anyone checks tickets nowadays anyway. I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.